The assembly will now come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assembly members Anderson, Backus, Brown May, Carter, Cole, Considine, Dahlia, DeLong, Dickman, De Silva, Edgeworth, Flanagan, Gallant, Gonzalez, Goulding, Gray, Gurr, Hafen, Hanson, Hardy, Hibbets, Hunt, Jackson, Howdigy, Karras, Kasama, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Marzola, Miller, Monroe Moreno, Moore, Mosca, Nadeem, Wynn, O'Neill, Ortlicker, Roth, Torres Fawcett, Watts, Urick, Gallant, Jackson, Speaker Yeager.
I am here. Assemblymember Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect we have 40 members present, 2 absent excused.
The record shall so reflect we have 40 members present, 2 absent excused. That means we do have a quorum this evening. I would ask members of the assembly and guests, if able, to please rise. We have the prayer by Chaplain George Whalen of, well, you know George. He's in the building a lot. He does a lot of great things for our committees, so please welcome him.
Thank you, Speaker. Good evening. Let us pray. Thank you for your presence here today. You are a gift from our Creator to each one of us here tonight. Now, may we take a moment from our very busy schedule to be one with divinity, who resides in each one of us. Let us be still and celebrate this precious moment of peace and quiet with the one who truly loves and cares for you, your Creator, the one who calls you by name. Creator God, you have called us to be here in this 83rd session to carry out your divine command. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. The call to bring peace and equity for all here in Nevada as in heaven. Your call is a demanding challenge, and we cannot do this unless you walk with us. We thank you for this calling to public ministry and most sacred call to lift others up in your name. Heavenly Creator, thank you for the gift and generosity of all our dedicated assembly members, administrative staff, dear families and loved ones who sacrifice much for the greater good of all Nevadans. May your Spirit strengthen and guide them with your wisdom as they navigate the daily demands before them. Let them be a beacon of light and a reflection of your presence. May their light today brighten tomorrow for all Nevadans. As always, we humbly ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order Business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Thursday, March 13th, 2025.
Assemblymember Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make the necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll go to order of business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, March 13th, 2025, to the Honorable the Assembly. I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Senate on this day passed Senate Bill number 96. Sherry L. Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Order of business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, March 17th, 2025. The Fiscal Analysis Division pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6 has determined the eligibility for exemption from Assembly Bills numbers 225, 247, 338, 340, 349, 363, 403. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Waiver of Joint Standing Rules. A waiver was requested by Senator Canizaro for BDR S-681, revises provisions relating to higher education to waive subsection 1 of Joint Standing Rule 14.2, dates for introduction of BDRs requested by individual legislators or committees, subsection 1 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3, out of final committee of House of Origin by the 68th day, subsection 2 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3, out of House of Origin by the 79th day, subsection 3 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3, out of final committee and second House by the 103rd day, subsection 4 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3, out of second House by the 110th day, has been granted March 16th, 2025. Senator Nicole J. Canizaro, Senate Majority Leader, Assembly Member Steve Yeager, Speaker of the Assembly. Assembly Joint Resolution 13, introduced by the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, urges the federal government to maintain a moratorium on the testing of explosive nuclear weapons.
Assembly Member Mosca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Joint Resolution 13 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assembly Joint Resolution 13 will be referred to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. That will take us to order business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Assembly Bill 434, introduced by Assemblymember Anderson, prohibits certain employment practices. Assembly Bill 431, introduced by Assemblymember Koenig, revises provisions governing the funding of schools. Assembly Bill 436, introduced by Assemblymembers Gray et al., revises provisions relating to firearms. Assembly Bill 437, introduced by Assemblymembers Dickman et al., provides for an establishment of the Fair Access to Insurance Requirements Plan. Assembly Bill 438, introduced by Assemblymembers Dickman et al., revises provisions relating to non-emergency medical transportation. Assembly Bill 439, introduced by Assemblymember Cole, revises provisions concerning the purchase or acquisition of certain unmanned aerial vehicles or other related equipment and services under certain circumstances. Assembly Bill 440, introduced by Assemblymember York, revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. Assembly Bill 441, introduced by Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, revises provisions governing the Nevada Education Choice Scholarship Program. Assembly Bill 442, introduced by Assemblymembers Watts et al., revises provisions relating to grants. Assembly Bill 443, introduced by Assemblymember Gallant, revises provisions relating to real property. Assembly Bill 444, introduced by Assemblymember Hafen, revises provisions relating to governmental administration. Assembly Bill 445, introduced by Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, revises provisions relating to libraries. Assembly Bill 446, introduced by Assemblymember Carter, revises provisions relating to transportation. Assembly Bill 447, introduced by Assemblymembers Hardy et al., provides for the partial abatement of the property tax levied on certain residential rental dwellings. Assembly Bill 448, introduced by Assemblymember Koenig, revises provisions relating to insurance for vision care. Assembly Bill 449, introduced by Assemblyman Gurr, revises provisions governing public utilities. Assembly Bill 450, introduced by Assemblymember Marzola, revises requirements to obtain a license as a marriage and family therapist or clinical professional counselor by endorsement. Assembly Bill 451, introduced by Assembly Members Howdigee et al., establishes provisions for voluntary placing temporary restrictions on possession, custody, control, purchase, or acquisition of a firearm. Assembly Bill 451, introduced by Assembly Member Brown May, revises provisions relating to public utilities. Assembly Bill 451, introduced by Assembly Member Anderson, revises provisions relating to taxation. Assembly Bill 451, introduced by Assembly Member Nadeem, enacts the Smart Head Law for public and private schools. Assembly Bill 455, introduced by Assembly Members Hanson et al., revises provisions governing property taxes. Assembly Bill 456, introduced by Assembly Members Moore et al., revises provisions relating to public utilities. Assembly Bill 457, introduced by Assembly Member Considine, revises provisions governing the commerce tax. Assembly Bill 458, introduced by Assembly Member Watts, revises provisions governing energy. Assembly Bill 459, introduced by Assembly Member Watts, revises provisions relating to certain providers of transportation services. Assembly Bill 460, introduced by Assembly Members Gonzalez et al., revises provisions relating to child welfare. Assembly Bill 461, introduced by Assembly Members Orentlicker et al., revises provisions governing health care. Assembly Bill 462, introduced by Assembly Member Backus, revises provisions relating to economic development. Assembly Bill 463, introduced by Assemblymember Backus, revises provisions relating to prior authorization. Assembly Bill 464, introduced by Assemblymember Miller, revises provisions governing education. Assembly Bill 465, introduced by Assemblymember Miller, revises provisions relating to education. Assembly Bill 466, introduced by Assemblymember Kasama, revises certain notice requirements imposed on an insurer who insures a policy of portable electronic insurance. Assembly Bill 467, introduced by Assembly Members Roth et al., revises provisions relating to forensic mental health. Assembly Bill 468, introduced by Assembly Member Gallant, revises provisions relating to education. Assembly Bill 469, introduced by Assembly Member Gallant, revises provisions relating to labor. Assembly Bill 470, introduced by Assembly Member Kasama, revises provisions relating to prior authorization for medical or dental care under health insurance plans. Assembly Bill 471, introduced by Assemblymember Hibbets, revises provisions governing remote sales of certain tobacco products.
Assemblymember Howdigee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all bills be referred to their committees as assigned on the Assembly floor agenda dated March 17th, 2025.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The bills will be referred to the committees listed on today's agenda. We will stay in order of business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Assembly Bill 472, introduced by the Committee on Education, revises provisions relating to educational personnel.
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 472 be referred to your most educated Committee on Education.
Without objection, so referred.
Senate Bill 96, introduced by Senators Krasner et al., designates January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day in the state of Nevada.
Assemblymember Howdigee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 96 be referred to your Committee on Government Affairs.
Without objection, so referred. That'll now take us to order business 15, remarks from the floor. If you have remarks from the floor, if you could please indicate by hitting your speak button. Let's start with Assemblymember Nadeem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I have the privilege to announce that today is Asian American Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Advocacy Day at the Legislature. Since 2019, AAN HPI Advocacy Day has been hosted during each session, bringing AAN HPI leaders from across the state to Carson City to advocate. Today, we welcome more than 80 community leaders to the building. Please stand if you are part of AAN HPI Advocacy Day. Thank you. Nevada is home to over 400,000 Asian Pacific Islander Americans, and the history of the AAN HPI community can be traced back to the beginning of our state's history with contributions to key industries including mining and railroad. And today, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you and acknowledge the incredible energy, passion, and determination that each of you bring to our community. Also, I am so excited and delighted to see my daughter, Noor Nadeem, here with us today, who is a UNLV Honors College student and a part of Advocacy Committee for the Asian American Native, to serve as the Vice President of our AAN HPI caucus, which started with just one assembly member in 2017, to now having 8 members from Assembly District 3, 5, 8, 14, 16, 28, 34, and Senate District 3. As our community continues to grow, we know that our voices and stories deserve to be heard everywhere, including here in Legislative Building. I would finally like to acknowledge the Asian Community Development Council, One APIA Nevada, and AAN HPI Legislative Caucus for co-hosting this event. If you would like to learn more about the history of AAN HPI Advocacy Day, please stop by the table in the lobby. Thank you, everyone, for welcoming our community leaders today as they give testimony in hearings, have meetings with legislators, and advocate for bills that directly impact the community. I thank you for your commitment, your ideas, and for your courage in standing up for what you do and what you believe in. Please help me in welcoming all of them. Thank you.
Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There were a lot of little Girl Scouts here today. I hope you got a chance to go to 3100, grab a cookie, see tomorrow's leaders in action today. The Girl Scouts of Southern Nevada and the Girl Scouts of Sierra Nevada stand as pillars of strength, empowerment, and leadership for young girls, shaping the future of our communities and our nation. Celebrating 113 years of excellence this past March 12th, the Girl Scouts organization has consistently led the way in fostering girls' leadership, helping girls discover their voice, mission, purpose, and passion. Through dedicated programs and initiatives, Girl Scouts inspire the next generation of female leaders who will impact the world with courage, confidence, character, and vision. As champions of female leadership, Girl Scouts provide the tools, mentorship, and support for girls to see themselves as powerful, change-making leaders prepared to rise and shape the future for generations to come. This organization is vital not just for today, but for the enduring progress of our society.
I wish I could say I only had one cookie, but that would not be true. But I had less than 10, fewer than 10. Assemblymember O'Neill, it's your time to shine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker O'Yeager. I have a proclamation that I'd like to read. At least I'll read part of it because it is late in the evening. But I want to give a little of the shared history between Ireland and the United States. As you all know, next year, 2026, our country will be celebrating its 250th anniversary, the start of the revolution. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the impact that those of Irish heritage had on the success of our Revolutionary War. Just a month after April of 1775, Maurice O'Brien of Cork, Ireland, and his sons became prisoners in the struggles for American independence by leading the capture of the British ship HMS Margarita off the coast in what is now Maine of 1775. It was a crucial early victory for the American people in their revolutionary efforts. Then, on the Battle of Bunker Hill in June of 1775, a pivotal moment in the American War of Independence when many Irish-born soldiers and Irish Americans playing a vital role, including Major Andrew McCleary, who gave his life in service to the cause of American independence, and Colonel John Stark, an Irish-American hero for the day. Irish-American figures such as Captain Ebenezer Sullivan and his brothers James and John Sullivan contributed significantly to the war effort, with John Sullivan's leadership instrumental in successfully forcing the evacuation, I'll say the chasing of British troops from Boston, out of Boston on St. Patrick's Day, 1776. And whereas Commodore John Barry, born in County Wexford, Ireland, later became known as the father of the American Navy, commanding the USS Lexington in 1775, the first ship commissioned by the Continental Congress. Let it be proclaimed that Nevadas are encouraged to honor the key and vital roles that Irish men and women played in the American War of Independence and to recognize the Irish people's legacy in shaping the course of our American history, while reaffirming the commitment to the partnership between Ireland and the United States that is grounded in the shared values of liberty and peace, dated this 17th of March, 2025. And I would ask that the entire proclamation as whole be put into our daily journal, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The proclamation will be entered into today's journal. Do we have any other order of business 15 this evening? Assemblymember Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some very quick announcements for the floor. I just want to remind this body that tomorrow we have our senior U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto addressing the body at 5 p.m. So please be in your seats by 4:45. And another reminder that this Thursday we will be having our floor session in the historic Assembly chambers located in the Capitol. So please allow yourself enough time to walk across the Capitol Mall and get into your seats in the old chamber so that we can start promptly at 11:30. And before we adjourn, Mr. Speaker, I do want to extend our deep appreciation for the people who made this deadline day happen. Our Assembly Chief Clerk and Assembly Front Desk staff, thank you so much for processing the bill so quickly and making sure that we can start floor on time and get through our work on time. And also the people behind the scenes, Mr. Speaker, the legal division, who we don't get to see all the time, but who are busy in their offices drafting the bills that we get to hear and pass in this body. And I do want to acknowledge that since I've been here, Mr. Speaker, and this is my 5th session, this is the first time that I've seen this where the legal division worked so hard and they were able to meet deadline day before deadline day. And I think that deserves a tremendous round of applause for them and our Chief Clerk and Front Desk staff. So let's thank them. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the Assembly stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
Assemblymember Howdigi has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, at the hour of 11:30 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We are adjourned.